Grieving the loss of a loved one is a painful process at any time of the year, but for many, Christmas can make it all the more challenging. In fact, 97% of you told us that grief is harder to deal with during the festive season than any other time of the year. And I mean, everyone's going to be touched by this topic. It affects all of us at some point in our life, and obviously you as well, Gloria. I mean, you speak very openly about how you try to deal with having lost.
And I think in a way, although I'll come back to the point, I think it's part of my healing to speak openly, to actually speak about it. But I don't think I've ever been so aware as I am at the moment of a country in grief, because there have been so many knife situations. You have terrorism, you have all the obvious of cancer and all the illnesses, and there'll be literally thousands of people out there today who'll be thinking of, how will I cope with having some form of Christmas for the rest of my family, but coping with the grief at the same time? And it's hard, and it is a process, and everybody grieves at a different pace, and I say that up front. I didn't know what I was going to do. We lost Karen in the April, and even though she had battled her cancer for 7 years, and we'd had an inkling that all might not be well, nothing ever prepares you really for the final thing. But I do think if somebody's taken away from you in a knifing or an accident like that, it's even harder. But Cliff Richard said to me around the October of that year, he said, how are you going to manage Christmas? And quite honestly, I hadn't a clue. I said to him, I don't know really. I hadn't at that point sort of really analysed it. I said, I don't know whether to write a card, not write a card, buy a present, not buy a present. And he looked me straight in the eye and he said, do Karen like Christmas? And I went, she absolutely adored it. So again, looking at straight in the eye, he said, so why don't you go bigger and better then for Karen and her boys? She had 2 boys. And in just that minute, I was kind of like frozen in time, and I thought, why don't I? Why don't I celebrate the fact that she loved Christmas, keep her with us at Christmas? And so that year, I had 6 trees and 6-foot-tall Santa Clauses, and the boys actually loved it. And the boys, you know, children are very, very pliable, and they can be saying, oh, you know, my mummy died last week, or whatever. And then the next thing, they're on the trampoline and they've forgotten all about it. So they are adaptable, like, from that point of view. So all I would say, and it's not an easy thing, and it doesn't just disappear in a year, but if you can get your mind to, like, celebrate the fact that all those Christmases you've loved together, all the Christmases you've been together, I think it's a really part of the healing process to do that and talk about the person on the day. For me, there'd be nothing worse than if nobody ever mentioned Karen on Christmas Day. Do you remember the time we did such and such? Do you remember she got that doll's house when she was only 8? Yeah. You know, it's a very healing thing, but it's difficult. So I do wish all of you out there all the luck in the world and all the empathy in the world, in fact, to deal with it this year.
Yeah.
But it never gets easy. No. So you get used to it.
I do think it's a process, and I think that eventually you learn to live around it. I always analyse it by saying the black hole is always there, and you're always trying to climb up the black hole, but in the end, you learn to move around it and walk around it, and in the end, it gradually gets more manageable to cope with.
And some people find faith to help them get through such tragic circumstances. Did you find your faith helped you?
Well, a lot of people ask me, did it break my faith? Because I fundamentally have a reasonably strong faith. But I wanted to keep my faith. But I do know people who lost their faith because they went, I prayed every day that my son was going to live, and he didn't, and therefore it's broken my faith. But I do understand what you're saying.
Makes them question it,
faith helps you,
yeah.
Oh, definitely.
Carol, because you lost your mum, didn't you?
I lost her in 2003, and that's like 16 years ago. And there isn't a Christmas when I don't think of her. And but now, you know, you do. It's never ideal, and I always wish that she was still around so we could all go around there for our lunch, even though she couldn't wait for us to clear off. You know, she was like, well, I'm going to watch Coronation Street now. That's exactly how she spoke. But I do miss her, and we think about her, and we do talk about her still. But the last couple of years have been quite hard because the last 2 Christmases have been a little bit affected by grief, because I lost my sister in 2017. She was only 53, yeah. And then my other sister lost her partner in the same year. And it was like, it was difficult because you try to carry on and you try to... And Christmas is always like the most... It exaggerates everything, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And my sister, just before she died in January, so her main thing was to just have one more Christmas. And she had that Christmas, and that was... But it was so bittersweet, and I was with her, and it was... It was the hardest thing ever. But, you know, now I am looking forward to Christmas this year because I haven't lost anyone this year, which is great. And I feel like I can really enjoy it. But still thinking about them, still sort of looking forward and talking about them and having a nice
Keeping
Christmas
their memories alive.
for them, exactly. So,
But also, I think that we're also entrenched in our Christmas when we were kids, like the way my dad used to always do a special poem with every present. And then with your own children, you know, you remember those nights of making dolls' houses and little garages and things, you know, for Christmas. So I think we're also entrenched in those memories that, of course, when you spin it forward to the moment. But I still go back to the point, and I really feel for people who have lost their children this year in particular with death, or their husbands or partners, with accidents or with knife crimes or something. That's tough.
Yeah, we've had quite a few people write in on this. Teresa says, I find the best way to cope is to spend Christmas the same way your loved one spent it. My mum loved Christmas. She was like Tinkerbell around the place, putting up decorations and wrapping gifts. She would be furious if her family sat miserably not doing anything. So although it's a bit more low-key, I stick to her traditions, and I also know that I have that extra chair and a glass of wine ready, if you know what I mean.
That's lovely.
And Lucy put, I lost my sister in September. The whole family got together yesterday for a Christmas meal, and it was heartbreaking not having her there. But we know she would be looking down, wanting us all to be happy, and that was her wish. That's really
I'll give
sweet.
you one last phrase for anybody actually suffering any kind of grief, whether it's a partner or an accident or cancer, whatever it is. Somebody wrote to me after Karen died and they said, look, Karen's spirit was fantastic and she had a very big soul. And you have to remember that the soul is bigger than death and death is never the end.
Yeah.
Now, at that point, I gulped. She said, you have to find a way now of carrying your child or your husband or your wife's spirit forward and do something good in their memory. And that, I think, is one of the best healing points of everything, to help somebody else.
And it's still incredibly difficult to take that on board in those early stages. I think that's something that you start to work with as you then deal with your own a little bit further down the line sometimes
but
as well.
It's helpful for your own soul.
Absolutely,
Do you know what I mean?
and
a purpose.
A purpose, exactly that. Well, of course, as you say, we're thinking of anyone going through grief right now. It is a very difficult time of the year, and we do have some helplines on our website. There could be something there that might help with what you're going through as well.